I am not going to talk about specific instances of abuse in the vocal synth community. I don't want this to be a gossip video, as I find that to be in poor taste for this subject. Most of us who have been here for a while are aware of how common this is, and most reasonable people are tired of it. I also am not going to engage in debate about wider community culture related to the topic, such as the fiction versus reality debate and the sexualization of underage kids in VSynth, because as strongly as I feel about that, I find these conversations to be mostly unproductive. There's no point in me getting on here and just saying, preying on kids is bad. If you're watching this, you probably already agree with that, and the people who disagree are the people we need to warn others about. Instead, this is more of an internet safety video. Things I wish I was told before I was preyed upon, and things I wish the adults around me did for me to look out for me. I'm gonna have one section for what I think adults should know, and one section for what I think children should know, so let's get into that. Discord servers in this community are largely mixed age. In real life, it is very strange for grown adults to be hanging out casually with children. In this community, I think far too many people are not cognizant of the difference they have in age with others. If you are running a public Discord server, you have to either separate your users by age or don't allow children at all. Yes, children can lie about their age, but you have to try. You have to use your judgment, check how long they've been active, observe the way they talk. It's better to be safe than sorry. If you have children allowed, either do not allow not safe for work to be discussed at all, or posted or joked about, or isolate it to a private channel that users need to be vetted to access. The reasons why should be self-explanatory. This one might be controversial, but I do not think children should be allowed to access voice call channels in public servers. If they are one-on-one with an adult in there and they decide to say something inappropriate, there's very little anyone can really do to intervene, and there's no way that proof of the interaction can be checked without someone recording it. Alternatively, you can make it so that there's always someone of age that they personally know and trust in there, but I personally think that leaves way too much room for error. I would just not allow that. Do not have a public vent channel with mixed ages. Grown adults should never in any capacity be putting a child in a situation where they have to act as their therapist. A child does not have the capacity to help you, and they rarely have the ability to establish boundaries if you are pushing things too far. Imagine this. You are 14 years old, you're in the middle of your information literacy class, so you have your Chromebook open, and you're goofing around a bit with Discord open. Someone in the vent channel says they're suicidal because nobody cares about them, and nobody else is answering them. And you're in the middle of class, yes, but you're the only one around, and you're worried this person's gonna hurt themselves. So you give them attention, you tell them they're not worthless, and there's actually a lot of things you like about them. And then they tell you that they feel better, and you might have missed class, but now you feel like you did a good thing. So the next time this person gets upset, they're in your DMs. Yes, they are 21 years old and you're 14, but they're a friend, right? You know everything about their life, their personal neuroses, their family. You even relate to them a lot, and they often say you're the only person who responds to them and understands them. And they're starting to rely on you more and more. Sometimes you have to talk them down from depressive spirals for hours on end. It happens at all hours of the day when you're at school, when you're around family. But this is important, you're helping someone in need. One day this friend does something weird. Maybe the conversation delves into a weird place, or they send you a gross picture, and you feel gross and weird and uncomfortable. But you've also spent months telling this person that you're always going to be there for them, and that you would never abandon them the way everyone else does. They've spent months talking to you about how no one gets them and their life is so painful, except for you, the one bright spot in their life. So what the hell else are you supposed to do but respond? And then they keep going, and the next thing you know, it's an everyday thing. This is why you should never talk to a child like they are your peer. You should never parentify them or make them feel responsible for your well-being. Even if your end goal is not to prey on them, you're making them comfortable with the idea an adult should ever talk to them like they are mature for their age. When they are approached by a person like this, they're not gonna see it for the red flag that it is. Do not vent to children in a public server, in private group chats, or even publicly to your audience of children on Twitter. Okay, watch out for this behavior, call people out when they do it, don't allow it. Adult friendships with children should never extend past mentorship. Help them with program-related issues, maybe advise them on their personal problems if asked. Do not open up about yours. Do not make sexual jokes or innuendos around children. This should be obvious, but many people apparently have complaints about this. Yes, most teenagers know what sex is, but this is something they should be exploring with people their own age. Again, even if your intent was allegedly harmless, you are teaching them to be comfortable around adults who talk to them this way. Do not ever put the onus on a child to enforce boundaries. Most children don't even know what a boundary is. You can't say things like, "They never said this made them uncomfortable." Simply do not put them in a situation where they have to voice their discomfort to you at all. Do not excuse your adult friends who cross these boundaries. Make yourself someone who actually models good behavior, someone a kid in your server could maybe come to for help if something weird is happening to them, and actually get help. Do not engage children in ethical debates about pornography, specifically pro-ship versus anti-ship discourse. I see this all the time. Even if you're on the side that condemns these things, you are exposing kids to a concept that they can hardly understand, and it will probably lead to them seeking it out. Even if they're seeking it out to condemn it, that's not good for them. That is not an environment they should be in. If you're one of those adults who believes policing myself around other people's kids is not my responsibility, do not talk to any children ever at all. Do not join servers with children. Do not make servers where children are allowed. Do not publicly engage in hobbies where children are the main audience. If you absolutely cannot resist having an ahegao face as your profile picture, or giving your Utao's design a huge bulge, or setting your status to something egregiously horny, do not be anywhere where a child could ever be. Block every child you see. Yes, in an ideal world, parents would be in charge of parenting their kids. But not every child has a good family. In fact, predators target children with shitty families, specifically because of this. For you to plug your ears and just go la 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 solves nothing. No one is asking you to go save the entire world. Just be responsible for your own actions. This is the equivalent of walking into a grocery store with no pants on. Or worse, it is the equivalent of opening your front door and putting a sign that says free candy and video games inside, and then saying, "It's not my fault if your son stabs himself with my katana collection. If you cannot control yourself around a child, do not be around a child." Okay, moving on to the section aimed at kids now. Do not give away your personal information. I know that sounds self-explanatory. Most people know not to give out your address or legal name, but you also should not have public detailed descriptions of things like every single one of your neuroses and mental illnesses or your personal triggers and traumas. Anyone who wants to prey on you will be able to exploit this. You shouldn't even list your specific age, in my opinion. It's better to just say you're a minor and that's it. Once you know people better, you can gradually divulge this information as you grow to trust them, like how it works in real life. But walking around with a sign that lists all of your vulnerabilities and weaknesses is not a good idea. Be wary of adults who talk to you as if you are an adult. This is not normal behavior. Adults are deeply cognizant of the fact that the person they're talking to is a child normally. Even if someone is just a few years younger than you, really, you can normally feel the difference. They are either deliberately ignoring it, or they're emotionally immature. Both of these are dangerous for you, and you should not talk to them, even if they seem nice. Do not DM random YouTubers or niche internet celebrities just because you think they're cool. A reasonable adult is not gonna befriend a child, let alone a fan of theirs. I've had multiple kids from my YouTube comment section DM me on Discord to try to be friends, and it is frightening because they could easily be taken advantage of. At best, an adult should be distantly polite with you, maybe creatively supportive of you if you start talking more often, but they should never rely on you emotionally. Do not be sexual around an adult. This includes messages, statuses, profile pictures, memes. It doesn't matter if it's a joke or it's not that deep or whatever. An adult who doesn't react to that with discomfort is not normal and not safe for you to be around. On top of that, it's illegal for them to engage with you like this, so you're putting both of you at risk. Do not try to engage in predator stings or deeply engage yourself in debates about sexual abuse and pornography, like pro-ship versus anti-discourse. I've seen multiple underage people under the premise of fighting pedophilia immersing themselves in pedophilia or communities where pedophilia is rampant, or just straight up exposing themselves to like violent pornography and thinking it's fine because it's for a call-out document or something. One kid DM'd me being like,
"Did you see the creator of FNF is a lolicon?"
and then sent me hentai, and I was like, "You should not be looking at that." And they were like,
"Oh, okay."
Not vocal synth related either, but I saw that when Yandere Dev's grooming victim told a YouTuber that she was being groomed, the YouTuber made her keep talking to him to gather evidence. You'll notice that in To Catch a Predator or any other legal sting, they do not use actual children. They use actors who are adults that resemble children. Your very presence as a child in such a situation already compromises and complicates things. Do not seek this stuff out. Just tell an adult about it if you see it and then let them handle it. And to an adult, don't make a child do that. Take over their account if you have to do some shit like that, but don't ever encourage a kid to talk to a pedophile. Do not enter romantic relationships with someone who knew you as a child. I know this sounds self-explanatory, but again, this is not normal. To a mentally mature adult, it is impossible not to distinguish the gap between yourself and a kid. This cannot be an equal relationship, no matter if it feels that way. If anyone, not just an adult, starts isolating you from other people, stop talking to them. This can be direct or indirect. They might say something like, I feel like you like this person more than me, and then guilt you into talking to them more. Or they might just monopolize your time so much that you don't even have the ability to talk to other people even if you wanted to. They might start gossiping about your friends to suggest that they're all bad people. They might say, I feel uncomfortable in large groups, and then force you to have a lot of one-on-one time with them. Especially if they try to get you off the platform to hop to another platform with less moderation. Like if they say, I don't like talking publicly on Twitter as much. Can we DM somewhere more private like Discord? That's a red flag. Of course, with a couple of these scenarios, there's maybe like gray areas, but in general, if any of these situations happen with an adult, it should not. Ever. Don't ever feel indebted to an adult just because they did you favors or bought you a bunch of nice stuff. That is a common tactic to trap people. No one's gonna judge you for not appreciating it enough. Be extremely wary of what you send to adults that you just met. I know it sounds corny, but the whole everything you post on the internet is permanent thing still carries weight. Things you say can be screenshotted, screen recorded, have metadata floating around. And yeah, this goes both ways, but what can happen is a crazy person could save something you sent them and then blackmail you into doing stuff you don't want to do. So just be wary of that possibility. If you ever feel maybe like you don't deserve to come forward because maybe you consented at the time or you didn't say no hard enough, you cannot consent. The very fact that you were a child is already a hard boundary that person crossed. Avoid adults who encourage parasocialness within their audience, especially if their audience has a lot of children. If they publicly post a bunch of crash outs, if they suicide bait for engagement, if they talk about how all of their followers are like family and put pressure on them to emotionally reassure them whenever they're sad, maintain a distance from them. Don't get into arguments with them about it that's still engaging them. Just avoid them. Along with that, avoid adults who suicide bait people. Adults who turn their profile picture to a black square and their username into a dot, or vaguely post about how they might end it all. I know that your first thought is going to be concern as to whether this is genuine, but as a child, it is not your responsibility to handle this grown person's crash out. An adult who is genuinely suicidal has no reason to turn to a 12-year-old on Twitter to save them. They need help from a capable professional, not from you. Let me tell you that even as an adult who has been deeply suicidal most of my life, I have never had the urge to beg a 12-year-old for help, and I understand that it isn't fair to the people who actually care about me for me to force them to watch me suffer instead of actually get help. Especially if this crash out precedes, like, not getting something they wanted, if it preceded, like, a post not being popular, or you didn't give them the attention they wanted. That's suspicious. That's manipulative, whether they meant it to be or not. Don't ever feel responsible for the neuroses of an adult. The truth is, you are just a kid. You should never have to have these burdens put on you. These people should be here to guide you and help you. If you have ever had a thought like, I can't leave, what if they hurt themselves? That is not a healthy relationship. Be wary of people who ignore your boundaries. If you say something like, this makes me upset or uncomfortable and I don't want you to do it anymore, and they either respond with excuses or they say sorry and then just do it again later, anything besides just straight up not doing it anymore, they will wear you down into a state of learned helplessness over time. Now, what is learned helplessness? That is when every time you try to get out of a bad situation, things don't change and then you give up on trying. Well, the first time you tell someone they're making you uncomfortable and they say okay but they don't change, you'll probably get this icky feeling, but maybe the relationship is so important that you don't want to end it. So the next time it comes up, you just don't say anything, because there isn't any point. Nobody gives a shit anyway. That's learned helplessness. You should also avoid people who present you with double binds. A double bind is basically a situation where you can't win no matter what you do. So, let's say one of your adult online friends says, I need to be alone for a while, I'm so depressed, don't reach out to me because I don't want to see anyone right now. But then when you obey that boundary, they go, I was gone and nobody even missed me. Look, I just read back in the chat and you're all having fun without me. I guess you don't care about me. That is a double bind. This is another thing that forces you into learned helplessness. You learn that making decisions is useless because all of them are wrong. So you just defer to this person automatically. Another thing is people being nice does not mean they are good, and people being mean does not mean they're bad. Oftentimes it's hard to hear that someone we care about is not a good person, or they might be an abuser, because we have positive experiences with them. But the truth is that abusers are not one-dimensional monsters. They can be friends, they can be loved ones, they can be family and idols. People can contain multitudes, and sometimes those multitudes are bad. There are people in my life who have hurt me, over whom I have agonized for a long time over whether they actually ever loved me or cared about me. But the true answer is maybe. But it doesn't matter. Someone could love you with all of their heart, but if they're hurting you, that's not acceptable, no matter what. If you're maybe starting to come to a realization that someone in your life shouldn't be there, I urge you to trust your gut feeling. You don't need to draft a breakup text to them. You don't owe them anything. Just block them, now, and don't come back. If possible, tell someone you trust about it. Or go public with it. Screenshot, back up your DMs, ideally maybe ask an adult friend to do that so you don't re-traumatize yourself. But the important thing is to get out of that unsafe situation. I know that we generally don't trust cops around here, but if you are in a situation where you can, I would highly encourage you to contact authorities or maybe even leave an anonymous tip to the government. In the US, at least, you can send a tip to the FBI anonymously. I might leave some links for that, or if you know your predator's name and address, you could press charges against them. I know I plan to do that, but I also know that not everyone is in such a privileged place. The important thing is to get away from them. On the topic of going public about your abuser or abuse you've been subjected to, I understand how intimidating that can be, because I've had to go public about, my own abuse. And I don't think people understand just how humiliating that can be. Like, you have to show everyone pictures of you engaging in these deeply vulnerable conversations where, like, maybe you were not at your best, where you feel like you acted stupidly. I had a video of me basically fucking crying to my abuser, begging them to stop abusing me, essentially, that everybody had to listen to, and that was fucking mortifying. And I think people need to be more sympathetic, I guess, to people who are not, ready to come forward about that stuff. Because, even though I had to go through that fucking humiliating ritual, there were still people badgering me about this stuff. Like, there are people saying, oh, I get it, but, like, I separate art from artists, so I'm still gonna use her uta. Or people being like, I don't know if I believe that, because blah, blah, blah. Or it's like, I can't be asked to read all of this. Why is it written in such a disorganized way? As if, like, a child who was coming forward about their deepest trauma would organize shit like a fucking Wikipedia editor. But anyway, it sucks. It sucks coming forward about that stuff. But I also think it's important. What motivated me was the possibility that this person could groom someone else. She was very popular in the community. She was becoming really successful as an utaite. Like, a famous producer was hiring her to sing for his songs, and they were putting her voice in rhythm games and shit. And, it was important. It was important for people to know about this, to me. And, it sucks that as a kid, or maybe just an abused person, that after all this happens, it's your responsibility to fix it. But, I also think it's important for you to get acknowledgement and justice for what happened to you. Or at least as close to justice as you can get. And, for people who are not victims, but are at least concerned, I think that it's not enough to just disagree with this stuff. I don't think it's enough to just not prey on a child. I think you have to actively actively check the people around you. Check yourself. Check if you're I don't know, if you have things that you are used to because you grew up around them that maybe you need to correct. Because that's something I hear very commonly in these situations. They're like, yes, I saw about this and I knew about it, but I was just used to it. I never thought it was weird before. You know, there's just a bunch of shit that we need to unlearn. This community in particular, people are very, most people are neurodivergent, most people are mentally ill, and a lot of us don't go outside and are very poorly socialized. And admittedly, a lot of us are very age regressed. Like, a lot of them are like 21 and are still talking with 13-year-olds like they're their peers because mentally they're still like a 13-year-old. And I think that we need to check ourselves and grow up. Anyway, that's it.